non-profit organization that works with children with developmental disabilities and their families so that they are included in society and reach their maximum potential. This year's gathering is also more special because this year Umeed is turning 25 years old. I'm a part of the school services at Umeed, which works towards making inclusion and inclusive education a reality. समावेश और समावेशी शिक्षा को हकीकत बनाना. To do that, a large part of our work focuses on building emotionally safe and inclusive spaces in education, alongside schools, educators, families, and organizations. यानी हम मिलकर ऐसे स्पेसेस बनाने की कोशिश करते हैं जहां हर बच्चा बिलोंग कर सके और अपने पूरे पोटेंशियल तक पहुंच सके. The School Inclusion Summit began in 2021 during COVID as an online initiative along with Apni Shala Foundation. Over the years, it has grown into a beautiful shared space for dialogue, reflection, learning, and collaboration. This year, the summit is spread across 3 days in a hybrid format, with the 4th and the 5th June being online and the 6th June being an in-person gathering. और आज ये समिट एक ऐसी शेयर्ड स्पेस बन गया है जहां हम साथ मिलकर इंक्लूजन को समझने, रिफ्लेक्ट करने और नई पॉसिबिलिटीज इमेजिन करने की कोशिश करते हैं. Over the next 3 days, we will engage in conversations through parallel panel discussions, story spaces, showcase spaces, and well-being experiences that explore inclusion across schools, communities, and systems. And that brings us to this year's thoughtfully curated theme: People and Possibilities, Pathways to Inclusion. The theme invites us to explore a simple but powerful question: what becomes possible when people come together with a shared commitment to making everyone feel valued, included, and truly belonged? जब हम सब मिलकर ये कोशिश करते हैं कि हर व्यक्ति खुद को महत्वपूर्ण, शामिल और अपनापन जहां पे महसूस कर पाए, तो क्या-क्या संभव हो सकता है? Throughout the summit, we will hear from individuals, organizations, and communities who are reimagining inclusion in different ways. Through conversations on strengths, collaboration, well-being, system change, and lived experiences, we will explore both the opportunities and the complexities of creating inclusive spaces. हम देखेंगे कि इंक्लूजन सिर्फ एक आइडिया नहीं, बल्कि एक प्रोसेस है जो मिलकर काम करने, सीखने और नई पॉसिबिलिटीज क्रिएट करने से आगे बढ़ता है. Whether we are talking about schools, workplaces, communities, or larger systems, the focus is not only on the challenges we face, but also on what becomes possible when all like-minded people come together. हमें उम्मीद है ये 3 दिन आपको नए नजरिए, मीनिंगफुल कनेक्शंस और ऐसे विचार देंगे जिन्हें आप अपने कॉन्टेक्स्ट और कम्युनिटीज में परिवर्तन लाने के लिए साथ लेकर जा पाएंगे. And now it is my pleasure to hand over to Noemi, who will take us forward with the next part of the space.
Thank you, Deepti. Hello, everyone. I am Noemi. I am wearing a pink and white kurti. My hair is curly and tied into a half ponytail. I am sitting in front of a white background with the SIS logo behind me. Before we begin, let's do a quick check-in with each other. हम सब अलग अलग जगहों से डिफरेंट एक्सपीरियंसेस, थॉट्स और फीलिंग्स के साथ इस स्पेस में आए हैं. सो आई एम क्यूरियस राइट नाउ, हाउ आर यू फीलिंग? चैट में प्लीज एक वर्ड या एक शॉर्ट फ्रेज या एक इवन एन इमोजी शेयर कीजिए जो बताए कि आप आज किस फीलिंग के साथ यहाँ आए हैं। On our screen, we also have a feeling check-in, and I will read out the feelings to you. If you have any other feeling that is not mentioned on the screen, please feel free to mention it in the chat box. Our feelings that are mentioned on the screen are love, connected, safe, calm, curious, creative, happy, pleasant, silly, tired, disappointed, bored, annoyed, frustrated. There are no right or wrong answers. जो भी इस वक्त आपके लिए सच है, feel free to share that. And I can see so many different responses on the chat box. I can see curious, calm, excited. Great. I'm so great that you're excited and curious and calm to join here. I see a lot of connected, pleasant, happy, love and connected. Okay, great. Inquisitive, right? Happy. It's so great to see so many different emotions. Sorry. Okay, I can see so many. I can see someone also say nervous and curious. Don't worry, I think it will go well today. I see relaxed, excited. Okay, great. Tired. Oh, please get well soon. Love and connected. Great. Okay, great. Thank you so much. Thank you everyone for sharing so openly and honestly. It's lovely to already see the space filling up with so many different emotions and experiences. And for the ones that are tired, I hope this space energizes you, as well as for the ones that are sick, please get well soon. Okay. So, as we move through the summit, we want to make the space as accessible and inclusive as possible. Okay. Most of our sessions will happen both in English and Hindi. अगर कोई स्पीकर इंग्लिश में शेयर करेंगे तो इम्पोर्टेंट पॉइंट्स हिंदी में समराइज किया जाएंगे, और अगर हिंदी में शेयरिंग होगी तो उसका इंग्लिश समरी भी दिया जाएगा, so that many more people can participate comfortably. Okay. Closed captions will also be available for all English sessions, and you can activate them on your screen. We are also very grateful to have our sign language interpretation support with us across the summit. Nilam Dalvi, who is spotlighted over here. Let me just introduce our sign language. Nilam has a B.Ed in Special Education and a diploma in Indian Sign Language Interpretation. She has experience as a sign language interpreter and currently works as a trainee special educator, supporting children with diverse needs in inclusive settings. She is deeply passionate about inclusion and the holistic development of all children with special needs. We're really happy to have her here with us today, supporting accessibility and participation for everyone in this space.
Neelam, can I request you to move a little behind because your hand gestures are not very visible? Just a little behind. Yeah.
Thank you, Nilam.
Thank you, Neelam.
So, a few quick reminders before we begin. Your mics will be kept off for all to minimize sound when panelists or presenters are sharing. Okay. Please rename yourselves with your registered name. Great. I can see a lot of reactions. Thank you so much. Chat with co-hosts if you need to ask questions to the presenter or panelists. You will find their name listed as "Send me your questions." For any general support or technical assistance, please connect with the name listed as SIS support. Feel free to use the chat and reactions throughout the day. We'd love this to be an interactive space. And I'm so glad that you're already using the expressions and emojis over here. So thank you very much. अगर आप समिट से अपनी लर्निंग्स या रिफ्लेक्शन सोशल मीडिया पर शेयर करना चाहते हैं या उसे व्हाट्सएप ग्रुप में शेयर करना चाहते हैं तो हमें टैग करना न भूलें. You can use the hashtags hashtag SIS 2026, hashtag School Inclusion Summit, hashtag Inclusive Education, hashtag Umeed for All. We look forward to learning, reflecting, and engaging with all of you throughout the summit. And with that, let's take a quick look at what the morning has in store for us. जैसे हमें दीप्ति ने बताया कि यह समिट आज कल और परसों 3 दिनों होगा. द थर्ड डे जो हमारा इन पर्सन डे है, सिर्फ उस दिन की गाइडलाइंस और इंस्ट्रक्शंस के लिए आज एक अलग व्हाट्सएप ग्रुप क्रिएट किया जाएगा. Requesting you to please respond to those messages, polls, and information shared within 24 hours. So, let me take you through today's agenda snapshot. At 10:20 or maybe a little earlier, we begin with our keynote session, People and Possibilities, Pathway to Inclusion by Rohit Kumar. And from 11 a.m. onwards, we move into our panel discussion, Seeing Strengths, Creating Possibilities, featuring Anjali Parsekar, Nidhi Goyal, Vinita Gaitonde, and Dr. Koili Sengupta. Please stay logged into the same Zoom link throughout both the sessions. So before we go ahead with introducing our keynote or calling in our keynote, I would also like you to put on the chat box your name and from where you are coming from. Since I was looking at all the registrations and I've seen that you all are coming from everywhere around India and even out of India. So please put your name in the chat box and the place that you're coming from. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. Okay, I can see so many different people coming from so many different places. So we have Ayush from Ayodhya. Okay. Oh, I see from Kerala, Mumbai, Dehradun, Delhi. Wow. Hyderabad. Oh, I see someone from Goa too. Bangalore, Pune. Oh my goodness me. There are everyone from everywhere. Okay, that's so nice to see so many people coming from all over India. It's really nice to see you here. Welcome to the School Inclusion Summit. If it's your first time, we hope you are here for all the 3 days of our summit. Okay, I can see Rajasthan, Jaipur, Maharashtra, Pune, Bihar, Madhya Pradesh. Yes, I think I'm going to learn my states from all of this. Mumbai, Kerala, great. Can see Bhopal, Pune, yes. Thank you so much for joining us today. And please feel free to use the reactions over here. It's going to, make us more happy. It's also going to let us encourage us and our keynote speaker and our panelists.
It's so lovely to see all the responses. And like Noemi said, we are all amazed at all the places from where you all are joining us today. Thank you so much for being here with us today. We are very excited for the 3 days. We will start with our keynote at 10:15. So please keep the reactions coming in. Please keep your responses about where you're from, your names keep coming in. We'll start with the keynote in another 2 to 3 minutes.
And now it is my pleasure to introduce our keynote speaker, Rohit Kumar. Rohit is an educator with over 18 years of experience and is the CEO of Agnishala Foundation. Before moving into education, he worked as a software engineer with Tata Consultancy Services and holds master's degrees in both education and software systems. He also collaborates with the Seed Project USA, facilitating diversity workshops for educators and organizations, and has written extensively on well being, social emotional learning, mental health, and fundraising. Please join me in warmly welcoming Rohit Kumar as he delivers our keynote address People and Possibilities Pathways to Inclusion.
Thank you, Naomi. Uh, I am very, very excited to be here. Thank you, Omi team, for the invitation. And I'm very, very, kicked about the fact that the summit is continuing over the years and has taken a shape and form that it has. I'm going to invite all of us to take a moment and read this question on the screen. What is inclusion and why do we want it? इंक्लूजन क्या है और ये हमें क्यों चाहिए, क्यों चाह रहे हैं हम? It might sound like a rhetorical question. It might sound like, okay, this is a very obvious thing. I mean, we are here, right, for that. But I'm going to invite us to sit with this question. थोड़ी देर इस सवाल के साथ बैठते हैं आज सुबह. If you need to close your eyes for some time, do that. अगर थोड़ी देर के लिए आंखें बंद कर लेनी है, maybe do that as well. And take a moment to consider what may be our reasons to work towards inclusion. क्यों करना चाहते हैं हम इसके तरफ काम? क्यों चाहिए इंक्लूजन इन फर्स्ट प्लेस? इंक्लूजन वेयर? कहाँ चाहिए इंक्लूजन? In public spaces such as schools, colleges, government policies. क्या पब्लिक स्पेसेस में चाहिए, जैसे स्कूल्स हो गए, कॉलेजेस हो गए, गवर्नमेंट की पॉलिसीज हो गई, या प्राइवेट स्पेसेस में चाहिए, such as decisions made at home about who is marrying whom, who is loving whom, or in transitory spaces where personal and social and political submerge, such as marriage acts, right to education. When we start thinking about these questions, this idea of inclusion starts kind of expanding, at least in my mind. Right? And in today's conversation, we'll be talking about that a little bit. Before I go ahead, I'm also going to kind of let the people know as I was introduced, my name is Rohit. I work with an organization called Apni Shala Foundation. Today, I'm wearing a blue kurta. I am wearing specs. I have a whitish background uh, in my back. Uh, इस question को, if we flip it and expand a little bit, if you can go to the next slide, please. The question we are asking is what practices may facilitate coexistence, belonging, and thriving for all people. It is not a conversation around inclusion जहाँ पे मैं बोलूं कि कौन यहाँ होना चाहिए, किसको include करना है, versus a conversation with the reality that we are already existing together. We are already there in this world, living in the same time and space. How do we then nurture belonging? How do we then nurture thriving for all of us? ये हम कैसे कर सकेंगे? That's the question we are asking. Coexistence already is. The question is, can we learn to coexist harmoniously? Can we learn to recognize that our interdependence is not optional? Rather, that's the default. In my work in last couple of years, I've come to understand that we have to start asking different questions. And in understanding that, we need to kind of ask, what do I need to learn and do such that we can live in harmony with each other? How do we consider thriving? What does thriving really mean? And how do we also think about, is my thriving impacting other people negatively or is it contributing to other people's thriving as well? And in that context, what would schools look like? If that's what the world we are imagining, what should be happening in our schools? हमारे स्कूलों में क्या होने की जरूरत है अगर हम एक ऐसी दुनिया की कल्पना कर रहे हैं? So today, I'm here to share a few stories of people that I have the joy of knowing and working with, and of possibilities that are messy, imperfect, and still work in progress. But there are possibilities of shifting and changing the world and discourses around us. And to do that, I take you to a school right in the middle of the city, and I'm going to invite you to hear it from our young people and they experience school. Can you please play the video?
अगर जैसे ड्राइंग में अगर हमने अपनी ड्राइंग थोड़ी सी गंदी बना दी तो ऐसा नहीं बोलते कि आपकी ड्राइंग बहुत गंदी है, वो बोलते हैं तुम्हारी ड्राइंग बहुत अच्छी बनी है, इसे तुम और प्रैक्टिस करो जिससे ये हो पाए। उसकी वजह से हमें मोटिवेशन मिलता है। दूसरों के फीलिंग्स को समझना, जैसे कि कोई रो रहा है तो हम उनके फीलिंग्स को समझ सकते हैं। अगर वो थोड़ा ज़्यादा एंग्री है तो हम थोड़ा उन्हें स्पेस दें। अगर हम लोग का पढ़ने का मूड नहीं होता है तो हमारी दीदी है ना हमको ऐसा प्लान बना दिए जिससे हम लोग पढ़ भी सकते हैं और खेल भी सकते हैं। मेरा और मेरा दोस्त का झगड़ा हुआ था तो दीदी लोग ने मेरे को वहाँ लेके आए, तो दीदी लोग ने मेरे को दवा लगा के फिर बातचीत किए, फिर मैं कमता हूँ। सबकी बात सुनते भी है कि क्या प्रॉब्लम है और उसको अच्छे से सॉल्व भी करा। कॉर्नर में लेके जाके कान डाउन करा के ब्रीदिंग डाउन करा के और पानी पी के शांत रहेंगे। दीदी हमें सपोर्ट करती है, जो लोग इस चीज़ को ज़्यादा सपोर्ट चाहिए थी उनके लिए भी सपोर्ट करते हैं, जो लोग ज़्यादा बातें नहीं करते तो उनको इंकरेज करते, उनको भी सपोर्ट करते हैं। दीदी भैया सबको ट्रीट करते हैं इक्वली, हम लोग दीदी मदद भी करते हैं। अगर मुझे कुछ प्रॉब्लम होती है दीदी से ओपनली बात कर सकती हूँ। तो ऐसे हमारा स्कूल चलता है।
Thank you. If you can go to the next slide, please. Can we go to the next slide, please? If I can request everyone in the room today, take a moment to consider while watching this video, what came up about possibilities in schools. ये वीडियो को देखते हुए स्कूल को लेके क्या क्या संभावनाएं मन में आ रही हैं इस वक्त, अगर आप वो चैट में लिख सकें. We'll take a minute just to sit with this question, whatever comes up for us, if you can write that down in the chat. Happy learning spaces, a caring class teacher, positive feedback is important. School where children loves to come every day. एक दूसरे के प्रति सम्मान, safe space. Children are learning acceptance early on life. Yeah. And thank you for engaging with us. I think whenever I have watched this video last couple of times, like last couple of months, I've watched it like 100 times, right? And every time when I watch this and sit back and think about what makes a school offer this kind of experience to young people, right? What should be happening in the school on a day-to-day basis? Inside the school, outside the school, people who are in the community of that school, what should be happening? And to understand that, let me take you to one of my colleagues' classroom. Next slide, please. Radhika is a class teacher of grade 2 in Coach School, the school that you just saw. Uh, she joined the school as an intern, then slowly kept working with the school and then became a class teacher. And now she's been with this school as a class teacher for the last 3 years. Uh, Radhika last year wrote an article, and I think that's when I got to know that this happened in her class. What I will do is I will actually read a small part of her article as it is. If you can go to the next slide, please. Beyond the Bells, an article by Radhika Kanodia and Jyoti. Radhika writes, I had a new student in school. She came in a wheelchair on her first day of admission. I learned that some officials wondered, how will she move in the school? Will other students have problems? Will it increase the teacher's workload? How will she go up to the school, especially when the building doesn't have a lift yet? राधिका लिखे हैं कि एक एक स्टूडेंट नया स्टूडेंट आए स्कूल में, वो व्हील चेयर में थी जिस दिन वो पहले दिन एडमिशन के लिए आई थी, और बहुत सारे ऑफिशियल्स जो गवर्नमेंट ऑफिशियल्स है वो सोच रहे थे कि ये स्कूल में मूव कैसे करेगी, क्या दूसरे स्टूडेंट्स को प्रॉब्लम होगी, क्या टीचर का वर्कलोड इंक्रीज होगा, ये ऊपर कैसे जाएगी, स्कूल में तो लिफ्ट नहीं है. Coach has an all-inclusive admission policy unless something is beyond the infrastructural control, as that's not managed by Apni Shala. So Apni Shala right now is operating the school coach with partnership with the government. So the building is in the control of the government. So we can't, like for example, even if we want to put a lift in the building, we can't. When she was admitted to my class, I started interacting with her and her family. जब वो मेरी क्लास में आई तो मैं उससे और उसकी फैमिली से इंटरेक्ट करने लगी. I noticed she would not go to the toilet for the whole school day. मैंने नोटिस किया कि वो पूरे पूरे दिन वॉशरूम जाती ही नहीं थी, टॉयलेट जाती ही नहीं थी. नेक्स्ट स्लाइड प्लीज. One day I asked, why don't you ever go to washroom in breaks? एक दिन मैंने उसको पूछा कि तुम कभी वॉशरूम क्यों नहीं जाती. She took some time to muster courage and said, पापा बोलते हैं अगर तू वॉशरूम जाएगी तो स्कूल वालों का काम बढ़ेगा, तुझे मदद करे वॉशरूम के लिए तो तुझे स्कूल से निकाल देंगे, इसलिए दीदी नहीं जाती मैं. One of the days she mustered some courage and उसने कहा, my father has told me that if you will ask to go to washroom, that it will increase the workload of the teachers. The school will expel you. And that's why I don't go, Didi. I invite us to stay with this for some time. For a whole hour of 6 hours of the school, a young child is not going to the washroom because that child has been coached that if she asks to go to the classroom, to the washroom, she might increase the teacher's workload. What kind of experiences with schools this family may have had to make such a belief, right? Radhika writes, that hit me in my gut. Next slide, please. I planned a new break structure for the class without making it about one student. The plan had to be for the whole class so that one student wouldn't get singled out. I announced to my class, from now on, we will have a morning toilet break and a water break. During these breaks, I will come with you to assist because many of us are going to the washroom or the water filter. मैंने मेरी क्लास के लिए एक नया ब्रेक स्ट्रक्चर प्लान किया, बिना ये बताए कि किसी एक स्टूडेंट के लिए प्लान हो रहा है. ये सारे स्टूडेंट्स के लिए था विदाउट सिंगलिंग एनी वन चाइल्ड. मैंने क्लास में अनाउंस किया कि अब से हम सब लोग मॉर्निंग में एक टॉयलेट ब्रेक लेंगे और एक वाटर ब्रेक लेंगे. इस ब्रेक के दौरान हम दीदी लोग आपके साथ आएंगे क्योंकि हम सभी लोग जा रहे हैं वॉशरूम या वाटर ब्रेक के लिए. इट वॉज क्लैरिफाइड दैट अडल्ट्स विल अकम्पनी बिकॉज ऑफ द क्लासरूम स्ट्रेंथ. ये क्लैरिफाई किया गया था क्लास को. एंड रिमेंबर दिस इज द ग्रेड 2 क्लास एंड स्टिल द टीचर्स आर क्लैरिफाइंग दिस टू द क्लास दैट हम क्यों आपके साथ आ रहे हैं. So that one student doesn't feel that we are going for her, rather दीदीज are going for all of us. हम सभी के लिए दीदी आ रही है. Next slide, please. It took her a long time to accept and trust that nobody would be troubled by her. समय लगा उसको ये समझने के लिए और एक्सेप्ट करने के लिए कि कोई उसकी वजह से परेशान नहीं हो रहा है. Slowly, over time, her peers started helping her to walk to the restroom. धीरे धीरे उसके दोस्तों ने उसके साथ उसको वॉक करने में मदद करना शुरू किया. It just happened because of breaks and free plays where she could see her friends calling her to play, join in and help. ब्रेक्स और फ्री प्ले की वजह से उसके दोस्त उसको बुलाने लगे खेलने में, ज्वाइन करने में और उससे भी मदद मांगने लगे. These spaces made her feel more included because they are led by students, not adults. ये स्पेसेस ऐसे इंक्लूसिव होने लगी क्योंकि वो बाय डिफॉल्ट वो बच्चे अपने आप में एक दूसरे को लीड कर रहे थे. While she received support from teachers during other subjects, seeing her peers actively inviting her to join them during free play and breaks, such as to eat together, and offering support like walking her to the washroom created a classroom community where she belonged with her peers. इन छोटे छोटे एक्टिविटीज से राइट जहां आप एक दूसरे का खा लेते हैं, एक सपोर्ट कर देते हैं एक दूसरे को, एक क्लासरूम कम्युनिटी बनने लगी जहां पे वो खुद को बिलोंग्ड एक्सपीरियंस कर रहे हैं. नेक्स्ट स्लाइड प्लीज. The continuous effort from her peers to include her made her feel secure and valued in space. I noticed this ongoing inclusion practice emerging from friendships, joy, and a sense of community, along with the support from teachers, helped boost her confidence and sense of belonging in the school. ये जो कंटिन्यूअस एफर्ट रहा उसकी तरफ से, उसके दोस्तों की तरफ से, एक स्पेस बनने लगा जो सिक्योर स्पेस था. और राधिका लिखती है कि उसकी जो ऑब्जर्वेशन थी, एक सबसे बड़ी ऑब्जर्वेशन थी कि ये जो इंक्लूजन है वो दोस्ती से निकल के आया, सेंस ऑफ कम्युनिटी से निकल के आया. टीचर्स का सपोर्ट तो था ही, बट उसका खुद का कॉन्फिडेंस, खुद क्या करना है और एक स्पेस में एजेंसी के साथ पार्टिसिपेट करने से इमर्ज हुआ. And this actually reminds me a conversation I was having with Dr. Vibha Krishnamurthy a couple of months back, where she named that what is the role of friendships in school. And this is something that actually I'm very interested in investigating, that very rarely educators talks about what is the role of friendships in school. If I go and talk to students and interview students across the length and breadth of the country, right? अगर आप उनको पूछोगे ना क्यों स्कूल आते हो, most of them would say दोस्तों से मिलने, right? And when I was reading Radhika's article, that really hit me, that how sometimes we kind of make this jargony idea of what inclusion is and equity and this and that, and sometimes all we have to create space for friendships. Right? I'm gonna move to the next slide, please. I'm gonna invite you to take this question and stay with this question for some time. What are some things we notice Radhika doing to nurture coexistence and belonging in her class? How did her students participate in that? राधिका को अपनी क्लास में कोएग्जिस्टेंस और बिलोंगिंग को नर्चर करने के लिए हमने क्या क्या करते हुए पाया और उनके स्टूडेंट्स ने उसमें कैसे भागीदारी निभाई. तो टेक कपल ऑफ सेकंड्स. और अगर कुछ स्पेसिफिक एक्शंस आपने नोटिस करे एज यू आर लिसनिंग टू दिस नरेशन, प्लीज पुट देम डाउन इन द चैट बॉक्स. अगर कोई बहुत ही स्पेसिफिक राधिका ने ये किया, क्लास के स्टूडेंट्स ने ये किया और उसकी वजह से कोएग्जिस्टेंस एंड बिलोंगिंग नर्चर हो पाई, वो क्या एक्शंस थे, उन एक्शंस को अगर आप चैट बॉक्स में लिख सके. I can see peer support, proactiveness, being able to ask questions, empathy and kindness. Can we also talk about what actions makes us think that okay, ये action kind था या ये action empathy किससे drive हुआ था? What was she doing, or what was the students doing, or what was the student doing? Centering community as individual problems, looking at the class as a community and not just one child or one person's problem. Yeah, she did not make anyone feel कि अच्छा ये किसी एक बच्चे के लिए हो रहा है या किसी एक जन के लिए हो रहा है. Not singling people out, but thinking about it more structurally. What is the structure of my classroom? Yeah, she changed her routine, taking care of not singling out, allowing opportunity to develop friendships. ऐसे spaces create कर पाना in the classroom जहाँ friendships nurture हो सके, develop हो सके. Yeah, it was not seen as a burden, not कि इस एक जन को बहुत कुछ करना है या किसी एक जन की रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी बन जाए, but it was for everyone. Everyone found ways to navigate, negotiate. Yeah. Someone also noticed that how she was sitting down on the floor along with the students, right? As you saw in the picture. Thank you. Thank you for sharing all of this and engaging with this. I'm going to now take you from the classroom to a school, right? If you can go to the next slide, please. Go to the previous slide. Yeah. Indrajit ma'am is a principal in one of the government schools that we work with for last 10 years now. It's a school in Chembur. When we started our work with Indrajit ma'am, she was, I mean, it's a busy school. It's a small school, but it has many students in the school, right? And the community experiences diverse ways of being. I mean, there's joy in the community, but there's also communal tension. There's also experiences of violence that are primarily coming out of poverty. Or now this context, this school is situated, right? And often ऐसा होता है स्कूल में जहाँ पे कई बार क्लासरूम में स्टूडेंट्स मस्ती करते हैं, राइट? अब जब मस्ती होती है क्लासरूम्स में तो कई बार टीचर्स परेशान हो जाते हैं। कई बार जब टीचर्स परेशान हो जाते हैं, so what typically happens is, okay, go to the principal's room, right? We know those schools. The moment something is out of my control, go to the principal's room, right? And many times children are just sent to the principal's rooms. Now, over the years, Indrajit ma'am and we have been kind of, in conversation around what is well-being, what is mental health, what is social emotional development for children. Aprishala implements our SEL program in that school. Been working with teachers, principal, caregivers, etc. And one day Indrajit ma'am asked, यार मेरे पास नहीं बहुत सारे बच्चे आ जाते हैं दिन में हर घड़ी आधे आधे घंटे पे बच्चे आ रहे हैं मेरा मैं अपने काम में बिजी होती हूँ और कई बार जब वो आते हैं तो मैं डांट देती हूँ उनको बहुत जोर से कि क्यों ऐसे बदमाशी करते हो, क्यों करते रहते हो, या पनिश कर देती हूँ। मुझे पनिश नहीं करना है। पनिशमेंट के अलावा और क्या ऑप्शन है जब टीचर्स बच्चों को ऐसे भेजे? एंड आई थिंक दैट क्वेश्चन रियली काइंड ऑफ brought joy to us as a team because the principal here is stepping back and asking कि अब मुझे नहीं पनिश करना है। And in that asking, I think something else emerged. What we started doing with the school was started working on what are the restorative practices that we can do when children experience this distress in the classroom, जहाँ पे मस्ती ज्यादा होने लगे, जहाँ पे जब उनको प्रिंसिपल के पास भेज दिया जाए। और मैडम का ये रिकॉग्नाइज करना कि जब वो मैं कुछ तो गवर्नमेंट की रिपोर्ट बना रही हूँ उसमें बच्चा आ गया, अब मैं तो अपनी रिपोर्ट से परेशान हूँ, अब अभी बच्चे को भी डील करो, तो मैं उसको डांट देती हूँ, राइट? तो अभी सो देन सम ऑफ द प्रैक्टिसेस वी डेवलप टुगेदर वाज, अच्छा कैसा होगा कि अगर क्लासरूम में कुछ मंडला प्रैक्टिसेस हो, कुछ आपके ऑफिस में आप अगर कुछ किताबें रख दो, जब बच्चे भेजे जाएं तो उनको पहले बोलो कि अच्छा आप 5 मिनट ये कीजिए। दैट ऑल्सो गिव्स देम टाइम टू restructure, right? And then you converse about that. And that was something that emerged from her when we started talking what could be well-being centered ways of looking at behavior that is often seen disruptive. So first, she actually worked on her own staff room rather than saying, अच्छा मुझे teachers के साथ ये काम करना है या classroom में ये fix करना है या बच्चों को ये fix करना है. She first addressed what needed to happen in her principal's room when a child is sent. And then what else should happen. Now, in the same school, last year, there was an incident when in one of the classrooms, a teacher's watch got missing. Now, when people started kind of looking for it, they found out that it was taken by one of the students. Happens in all sorts of schools, all kinds of schools. Now, a typical response for the school would have been that parents को बुला दो, बच्चे को suspend कर दो, etc. But in this school, what happened was, Indrajit ma'am again said that, hey, you know what? I don't want to do that. Because I know that if this child is suspended, वो बच्चा क्या करेगा, right? Because many a times हमको लगता है कि जब suspend कर देंगे तो बच्चे सीख जाएंगे. But we know that in communities that don't have adequate support at home, sometimes the child is only, just roaming around in the community. So what she did was she kind of sat down with the child. We created a plan, and having the conversation with the child, also having the conversation with the teacher. Hey, can we not make this public to the whole classroom, right? And then started working with the family because the watch was already sold off, etc., etc., etc. We created a restorative behavior policy program for the entire school together. Like what should happen in situations like this when something like this happens? What is the role of a parent? What is the role of the teachers and students? How to kind of manage resources in the classroom. Now coming to the annual event. In the same school last year, we were having a conversation when a grade 5 students were going to dance. Now, the class decided they want to do a Lavani performance, which is a very beautiful dance performance, where you wear like this typical a certain kind of sari and dance. One of the boys said, "मुझे भी करना है." Teachers freaked out. They're like, "तुम कैसे करोगे? साड़ी पहन के डांस करना है, right?" The conversation kind of began. I mean, started bubbling up, bubbling up. Apni Shala team was there, and the teachers were there. And then the matter came to Indrajit ma'am, and then we started talking about it, right? So we took a pause. We said, okay, you know what? Let's not go to the students yet. First, let's clarify for ourselves and understand that it may not be a big deal in any school in general, right? But it is a context of government school. It is a context of their school which has a lot of regulations, certain decorum to be maintained because it's a government school, etc., etc., etc. So the fear from teachers, we also recognize that why they were nervous about that. When we asked, okay, why are you so nervous about this child dancing in a sari? The teacher said, सर इसको बाद में बहुत चिढ़ाएंगे सब बच्चे. And that was really revealing for us that if we had not asked that question, right, we would have assumed that the teacher just doesn't want to do the right thing or standing on our moral high ground. So we had to come down from our moral high ground and really ask what's going on. And when we did that, the teacher said, uh, the care for the child came up. And in that, then we started kind of, putting together a process where the entire class was educated. We kind of, spoke to the child separately saying that, hey, this might happen that the class is teasing you after this. Are you okay with that? And in doing all of that, the principal facilitated many of these conversations. So having seen that when a leadership kind of start looking at what is in their influence, what is in their scope of work and start moving things. A lot of things find this very structural and systemic designs of inclusion, right? And that's what Indrajit ma'am school today looks like. It's not perfect. We still miss out on things. Resources are not adequate, but her ability to ask that, hey, how can we do this differently, has moved so many things in the school. Can we go to the next slide, please? Once again, I invite all of us to take this moment and consider, as we hear about Indrajit ma'am's school, what are we noticing about how people may use their circle of influence to shift things in their schools, communities, or any other context where they may have any kind of influence? If you can write that down in the chat box, please. There could be a small action that you heard from a teacher, from the principal, from the students, other people involved in the school. Yeah, thinking about better solutions for students and starts from self-awareness. Being able to really look at the gender roles differently, look at social structures differently. Having and creating space to listen to children, बच्चों को सुनना, उनसे बातचीत करना. Yeah, she took it upon herself to first change some things for herself before, impacting change for others. Thank you. Thank you for engaging with this. Next slide, please. Now, often when we think about inclusion, justice, many of these words keep coming to us, and often this is again from the internet, so you would have seen this imagery many times. I think uh, the beauty of understanding this work is that कई बार हमें ऐसा लगता है कि बिलोंगिंग या जस्टिस या थ्राइविंग को क्रिएट करने के लिए कुछ एक्स्ट्रा करने की जरूरत है या इसके लिए कुछ करने की जरूरत है. The question we have to ask is that what is one thing or something that needs to fix in the system that can make equal access to both tools and opportunities, right? So if you look at the last image where the tree has to be placed differently, just like Radhika thought about कि अच्छा उसकी क्लास का स्ट्रक्चर में क्या चेंज होने की जरूरत है कि इसमें सारे बच्चे वॉशरूम एक्सेस कर सकें. Or the way Indrajit ma'am thought about what should happen when a child is sent to a principal's office in the principal's office. So can we fix the principal's office का setup that fear is dispelled? Because दोनों डरे हुए हैं, प्रिंसिपल भी डरा है क्या बात करूं मैं इससे, बच्चा भी डरा हुआ है कि अच्छा प्रिंसिपल क्या बोलेंगे. बट वहां पे अगर कहानी की किताब रख दी तो वो या कुछ मंडा रख दिया, the ecosystem changes, right? So what should happen in that space? Next slide, please. And sometimes we just have to kind of take away stuff. Remember this fence was created for a purpose maybe, but now it has become a barrier. शायद अब उसकी जरूरत नहीं है. Why do we keep placing things that are not required? So re-looking at again structures, right? किन structures को हटा देने की जरूरत है, right? Can young people mingle with each other? Can they help each other? Or do we have to assign a friend, a buddy, and this and that? तो when Radhika said कि अच्छा चलो सब साथ में जाते हैं, तो धीरे धीरे सारे बच्चों ने एक दूसरे की मदद करना शुरू कर दिया, एक दूसरे से मदद लेना शुरू कर दिया, right? So how do we remove barriers that are placed maybe for some reason, sometime, but it is not relevant today. So how do we ensure relevancy of what is going on here and now, right? And that is where the liberation thrives. That is where people can exist, and we don't have to do too much around that. And I think uh, for us to be able to think about in a fashion like this, I think it is important to understand people are not the problem is the problem. However, we all have collective accountability to address that problem, right? When we stop looking at the problems in people's bodies, but look at the problems in what's going on in the context and investigate the context, right? New possibilities emerge, new solutions emerge, right? Just like how Radhika first partnered with her students, कि भैया तुम ऐसा क्यों करती हो, क्यों नहीं जाती washroom, right? Unless we ask and partner with people, we can't create useful solutions, right? Next slide, please. Again, just thinking about this frameworks, belonging is at the intersection of diversity, inclusion, and equity, right? This presentation is shareable. Omid team, feel free to share it forward. I won't go too much into that because a lot on the slide. But just take a moment to look at the slide. We'll take 30 seconds. खुद से थोड़ा स्लाइड को पढ़ लेते हैं, देख लेते हैं. So we'll have to kind of expand our conversation from just thinking about who is in the room and who is not in the room. That's the starting point. When we start asking that question, then we start imagining new ways of being. And again, I'll give you another example. At Apni Shala, a couple of years back, we were doing recruitments, and we were like, we would wonder why do trans people are not part of our team? Trans लोग हमारे टीम का पार्ट क्यों नहीं है? एंड हम सोचते हैं हम तो जेडी भी बनाते हैं, हिंदी इंग्लिश में लिखते हैं, हमारा सारा रेलेवेंट जेडीज इंग्लिश हिंदी में होता है, सबको पब्लिकली अवेलेबल, फिर क्यों नहीं आते लोग, अप्लाई क्यों नहीं करते हमारे यहाँ? एंड इन आवर कॉन्वर्सेशन वी रियलाइज दैट मे बी वी आर नॉट प्रेजेंटिंग दिस इन्फॉर्मेशन इन कम्युनिटीज वेयर दे आर एक्सेसिंग द इन्फॉर्मेशन। तो शायद हम पब्लिकली भेज रहे हैं, लेकिन अगर वहां तक ही इन्फॉर्मेशन पहुंच ही नहीं रही तो लोग अप्लाई कैसे करेंगे? Because there are many barriers in access to information. So we had to solve for that, right? And when we start thinking about who is not in the room, and that's when we start investigating हमारे structures and systems में क्या चीज है जिसकी वजह से लोग इस room में नहीं है. And when people are in the room, are their ideas, perspectives really mattering? So Apnishala could have been just an NGO in Indrajit Ma'am's school, or she saw that as a thought partner. And can we work through the solution together? And when we are thinking about equity, we have to keep redistributing power, right? Who has the power? Who is making decisions? So if Radhika did not have the power in her classroom to make decisions about her classrooms, and सिर्फ principal ही break time decide कर पाते, तो राधिका कभी वो structure change ही नहीं कर पाती for her class, right? But Radhika had to have certain power for her to decide what's good for her classroom. And of course, she consults, she kind of speaks with the supervisor, the principal, etc. But how do we relook at the where is power located? And when we do this in a meaningful way, that's where belonging starts emerging for all people, for teachers and security staff and cleaning staff and the principals and parents and school management committees, all of us. We'll go to the next slide, please. So with all of this work, I mean, again, as I said in the beginning, what we do at Apni Shala, what I do in my scope of work, it is not the right solution or the right way of doing it, but more so an emergent way of understanding how can we really nurture and facilitate coexistence and belonging for all people that we are living in or laughing with on a day-to-day basis. And I think something that I would leave all of us today is there are a couple of things that work for me. Try for yourself, it works for you as well. The first one is pause. At different times in the meetings, in the conversations, in the reflections, in policy design, in curriculum design, take adequate and right pauses. And I think when I do that, spaces open up. Just like Radhika did. When Radhika took the pause, she realized she started noticing what's happening to one of her students. सब लोग जा रहे हैं वॉशरूम में, ये बच्ची नहीं जा रही है, right? You start noticing things when this pause becomes available. Like in the Jeet ma'am, when she took a pause for herself, her response changed. The next one is, if you can go to the next slide, please. This is something I think I resonate a lot when Raviraj Shetty, an occupational therapist and a therapist in general, he works with Narrative Practices India. One of his TED Talks is titled "The Craziest, Wildest, Magical Thing Ever," called "Ask." When Radhika asked that question, "ये तुम वॉशरूम क्यों नहीं जाती?" Or when Indrajit ma'am asked that question, that मुझे punishment नहीं देना है और क्या कर सकती हूँ, right? A whole world of new possibilities emerge, right? So rather than assuming what is good and useful for people, can we ask that a question? And I think that's where, and that's a very courageous stand to take, right? Sometimes I mean, especially for me as a CEO of an organization, like मुझे तो पता होना चाहिए, right? But I have to kind of step back and say, hey, शायद मुझे नहीं पता है. Can I ask and clarify, right? Next slide, please. The third one is give wise attention, chosen attention to what needs our attention. कई बार बहुत सारी चीजें चल रही हैं, बट इस वक्त मुझे किस चीज पे अटेंशन देना है? एंड व्हेन आई स्टार्टेड डूइंग दैट, आई थिंक अ लॉट ऑफ थिंग्स kind of start clearing up for me कि शायद बहुत चीजें हैं, बट इस वक्त मैं इस पे एड्रेस कर सकता हूँ, इसको अटेंशन दे सकता हूँ, सबको नहीं दे सकता. नेक्स्ट प्लीज. एंड एक्ट, टेक एक्शन. That's something I learned, that I can keep theorizing and learning and imagining and reimagining, but unless I act, nothing moves. So even if it's a messy action, even if it's little awkward action, not really well thought through planned action, but I will have to act, do something, maybe gadbad shadbad, but will I correct and repair and do a new course of action, but take action. And I think that's what I will leave all of us with my next last invitation. Take a moment to write down for yourself, what is your circle of influence? You could be a curriculum writer, you could be a classroom teacher, a principal, you know, someone who has a circle of influence in the friends group, right? Just write down in your notebook, pen, मोबाइल, जहां पे भी आपके पास स्पेस हो, आपका सर्कल ऑफ इन्फ्लुएंस कहाँ है, जहां आपकी बात लोग सुनते हैं, जहां जहां आप कुछ मूव कर सकते हो, जहां पे आप एक डिसीजन ले सकते हो. And think about what are one or two things you can do in this week, or you may already be doing and you want to keep doing it, that facilitates belonging in that circle. With that, I wrap up today's conversation. Very, very, very grateful for all of you to engaging with this. I think the way, and I hope that you're leaving with something that is awareness of what is my circle of influence, and in that, how can I continue to facilitate joy and belonging and coexistence, because the world needs more of it today more than ever. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Rohit, for setting the tone for our summit and for inviting us to reflect on the people, relationships, and possibilities that make inclusion possible. Your insights have given us much to think about as we continue our conversations today. And as we build on some of the ideas that you've raised in the keynote, we now move into our first panel discussion, Seeing Strengths, Creating Possibilities. So, this conversation will explore how recognizing and building on strengths can help create more inclusive environments for all. I am delighted to hand over the space to Joita, who will guide us through this discussion with our distinguished panelists. So, Joita is a senior special educator and part of the school services team here at Umi Child Development Center. With over 20 years of experience in disability, inclusion, and education, she works closely with children with disabilities, families, educators, and schools to strengthen inclusive practices. She's also a visiting faculty at Azim Premji University in Bangalore. Over to you, Joita.
Good morning everyone. Sorry for that delay. I was trying to unmute. But a very good morning to all of you. And my name is Joita, and I'm really excited today, and it's a privilege to welcome all of you to this panel discussion. I'm wearing a red and white striped shirt. I have black hair and it's open, and I'm wearing glasses. And at the background, I have the white background with CIS logo behind me. मेरा नाम जोइता है और मैं बहुत एक्साइटेड हूँ आज आप सबको यहाँ बुलाने के लिए. थैंक यू फॉर कमिंग. और मैं अभी एक वाइट एंड रेड स्ट्राइप टी शर्ट पहनी हूँ. मेरे बाल खुले हैं और कर्ली है, और मेरे पीछे वाइट बैकग्राउंड है जिस पे SIS का लोगो है. मैं शुरू करना चाहूँगी ये बोल के कि जब अभी हमने बहुत इंक्लूजन के बारे में सुना, और एक चीज़ जो हमेशा निकल के आती है कि हम लोग सब अलग अलग रोल कैसे प्ले करते हैं. हाउ डू वी ऑल प्ले डिफरेंट रोल्स इन मेकिंग इंक्लूजन हैपन. Inclusion is not simply about making space for everyone. It is about recognizing that every individual has something valuable to contribute and ensuring that our schools, workplaces, communities, and systems enable those contributions to flourish. When we talk about disability inclusion, we often begin by discussing barriers to education, employment, belonging, participation. While these conversations are important, today we also want to focus on something really powerful: the strength, the talents, the aspirations, and the potential of individuals with diverse needs. जब हम इंक्लूजन की जनरली बात करते हैं, हम सोचते हैं क्या क्या बैरियर्स आते हैं, बैरियर एजुकेशन में क्या है, एम्प्लॉयमेंट में क्या है, पार्टिसिपेशन में क्या है, तो वो सब भी बहुत ज़रूरी है डिस्कस करना। लेकिन आज हम जो डिस्कस करना चाहते हैं वो है कि हम एक पर्टिकुलर चीज़ पे कैसे फोकस करें जो बहुत पावरफुल है, और वो है स्ट्रेंथ, टैलेंट, एस्पिरेशन, पोटेंशियल। हर इंडिविजुअल में, हर बच्चे में जिसकी नीड्स शायद डिफरेंट है, लेकिन अलॉन्ग विद दोज नीड्स उसमें स्ट्रेंथ भी है, एस्पिरेशंस भी है, पोटेंशियल भी है। हम उसको कैसे और ओपन कर सकते हैं? Today's panelists bring us diverse perspectives that reflect the many dimensions of inclusion. We have a parent with us, we have a developmental pediatrician, we have a self-advocate and disability rights leader, and we have an educator who will all share their insights from their stories and experiences to explore and help us understand a very important question. How can we move beyond seeing limitations and instead recognize strengths, nurture opportunities, and create environments where every individual can thrive? हमारा आज का जो पैनलिस्ट है वो बहुत डाइवर्स बैकग्राउंड से आते हैं और वो अपने साथ बहुत स्टोरीज एंड एक्सपीरियंसेस लेके आएंगे। हमारे पास एक पेरेंट है, डेवलपमेंटल पीडियाट्रिशियन है, एक सेल्फ एडवोकेट है, जो एक डिसेबिलिटी राइट्स लीडर भी है, एंड एक एजुकेटर है। हम इनसे सुनेंगे कि आज हम कैसे ये इम्पोर्टेंट क्वेश्चन को और सही तरह से समझ पाए कि हम सिर्फ लिमिटेशंस नहीं देख के हम कैसे स्ट्रेंथ्स को रिकग्नाइज करें, हम कैसे अपॉर्चुनिटीज़ को ओपन अप करें, हम कैसे एनवायरनमेंट्स को क्रिएट करें जहां हर बच्चा, हर इंडिविजुअल अपना रियल सेल्फ लेके आ पाए और थ्राइव कर पाए। आगे बढ़ने से पहले आई वुड लाइक टू ब्रीफली इंट्रोड्यूस द पैनलिस्ट फॉर टुडेज सेशन। वी हैव विद अस निधि गोयल, who is the founder and executive director of Rising Flame. She wears many hats: an activist, a researcher, a trainer, and an artist. Her work is committed towards fostering inclusion of women, youth, and persons with disabilities within India and globally. Thank you so much, Nidhi, for joining the space today.
Hello.
We have Vinita Kanodia. Vinita works in instructional design and is also the mom of a kind 11-year-old boy called Mihir. Mihir is autistic and an old soul who shares his mother's love for reading and sweets. Vinita says she is still learning more about autism and would like to share and discover new strategies for fun and managing new situations. Welcome, Vinita.
Thank you, everyone.
We have Anjali Pansekar with us. Anjali began her journey in teaching in 1985, fueled by a simple belief that every child deserves a place to belong. Over the last 41 years, she has mentored countless students and witnessed the profound power of inclusive education firsthand. Anjali joins today's panel to share practical wisdom, heart-led strategies, and long-standing commitment to making schools a welcoming space for all learners. Thank you, Anjali, for joining today. And finally, we have Dr. Koili Sengupta. Dr. Koili is a senior consultant in developmental pediatrics and chief officer of autism healthcare at Umid Child Development Center. Her clinical work focuses primarily on autism spectrum disorder, and in addition to diagnosis and assessment, she has led the development of many programs for caregivers, empowerment, and skill building through Umid. Thank you so much, Koili, for coming. and once again welcoming all of you to this space. We'll begin with the first question here, and I would like to ask the first question to all of you, one by one. And it will be heartening to hear the what all you think about this particular question that I'm about to ask. I would like to begin with Koili and then move on to Vinita, Anjali and Nidhi. ये क्वेश्चन मैं सबसे पूछूंगी. पहला क्वेश्चन मैं कोयली के साथ स्टार्ट करूंगी और फिर विनीता, अंजलि एंड निधि आप बोल सकते हैं. Koili, you have spent years walking alongside children and families, supporting them through some of their most important journeys. In our society, doctors are often respected for their expertise in diagnosing conditions, speaking about problems, and providing treatment. When you hear the phrase seeing strengths, what does it mean to you personally and professionally? How do you notice it in your daily work with children? कोयली, आपने बहुत साल स्पेंड किया है बच्चों के साथ काम करते हैं, उनके फैमिलीज़ के साथ काम करते हैं, उसके मोस्ट इम्पॉर्टेंट जर्नी में उनका साथ देने में. हमारा सोसाइटी जो है वहाँ डॉक्टर्स को ऐसे देखा जाता है, रिस्पेक्ट किया जाता है कि वो सब कुछ जानते हैं, वो डायग्नोस कर सकते हैं कंडीशंस, वो प्रॉब्लम्स को बारे में बता सकते हैं और ट्रीटमेंट भी प्रोवाइड कर सकते हैं. तो जब आप ये फ्रेज़ सीइंग स्ट्रेंथ्स सब सोचते हैं स्ट्रेंथ के बारे में, उसका क्या मतलब है आपके लिए पर्सनली एंड प्रोफेशनली, और आपके काम में डेली लाइफ में जब आप बच्चों के साथ काम करते हैं उसका क्या मतलब निकल के आता है आपके लिए?
धन्यवाद जोइता, थैंक यू एंड आई एम सो एक्साइटेड टू बी पार्ट ऑफ दिस. मुझे बहुत खुशी हो रही है कि आज मैं आप सबके साथ हूँ SIS में पहले दिन. तो सबसे पहले जैसे जोइता ने बोला, मेरा नाम कोयली सेनगुप्ता है. मैं एक वुमेन के तौर पे आइडेंटिफाई करती हूँ. मेरे काले बाल हैं जो कि मेरे कंधे तक है. मैंने एक चश्मा पहना हुआ है और अगर मैं सीधी बैठती हूँ तो मेरी रेड शर्ट दिखती है स्क्रीन पे. मुझे हाँ काफ़ी साल हो गए हैं, पर मुझे अभी भी याद है कि मैंने अपनी मेडिकल डॉक्टर होने की जर्नी कैसे शुरू की. तो हम जब मेडिकल कॉलेज में जाते हैं तो सबसे पहले हम सीखते हैं कि पेशेंट के साथ, क्योंकि हम यही लैंग्वेज यूज़ करते हैं, पेशेंट के साथ जब आप पहली बार मिले तो आपको पहले पूछना है कि क्या तकलीफ है. तो वहाँ से शुरुआत होती है कि क्या तकलीफ है, बताओ, व्हाट्स रॉन्ग, क्या चल रहा है, क्या तकलीफ है, किसकी वजह से आए हो. तो ये जो प्रॉब्लम के साथ ही हमारी मुलाकात शुरू होती है और वही हम सीखते हैं मेडिकल कॉलेज में, क्योंकि वही सालों से, जनरेशन से वही सीख मिल रही है हमें. तो उस चीज को और उम्मीद में आज मुझे कुछ 18-19 साल हो गए हैं, और उसके पहले ऑफ कोर्स मेरी डेवलपमेंटल पीडियाट्रिक्स में और फिर चाइल्ड साइकोलॉजी में थोड़ी पढ़ाई रही है. तो वो सीख और उसके बाद ये काम में थोड़ा फर्क आया है. फर्क ये आया है कि हमने सीखा है कि ये जो प्रॉब्लम वाली जो सेंटेंस है ना, इसको हम हमारी भाषा से निकाल देंगे. तो हम ये शुरुआत नहीं करेंगे कि क्या प्रॉब्लम है, क्योंकि वही सबसे बड़ी चीज है कि हमें देखना है not to change from what is wrong and what is not working to what is strong and what is working, right? तो वो चीज है सबसे बड़ी कि क्या चीज है जो स्ट्रेंथ है, क्या चीज है जो अच्छा है, क्या चीज है जो काम कर रहा है, और क्या चीज है जिसके लिए हमें काम करना है. तो दैट्स प्राइमरीली हाउ आवर ओवरऑल वर्क, हमारा मुख्य रूप से जो काम है, हमारा दृष्टिकोण है, वो चेंज हुआ है.
थैंक यू कोयली. आपने बहुत ही सुंदर से बताया कि वो ट्रांजिशन आपके लिए कैसे हुआ है और वो ट्रांजिशन का मतलब क्या होता है, व्हाट इट मीन्स टू यू टुडे आफ्टर सो मेनी इयर्स. विनीता, मैं आपके पास आऊँगी. विनीता, योर जर्नी विथ मिहिर unfolds many experiences. Can you share a moment when you saw your child's strengths for the first time and many times later, and it made you think, oh, he's much more than the diagnosis and what the reports say? What was that moment for you, Vinita? And how did that change things for you and your child, Mihir?
Uh, First of all, I would like to thank you all for having me here. And I hope that my experience helps everyone, just as your experiences have helped me. I am a woman. Uh, Basically, to describe me, I also have curly hair, but I like to tame it and tie it up in a bun. And I'm wearing a dress which is of lilac, light purple color. So my son Mihir has actually taught me a lot, through this journey, through understanding autism and how comfortable he has been throughout about things that I was afraid of, or I was a little like I didn't know how to handle things. And it was wonderful, like even with something like stimming, he would be so comfortable doing it, and he would say that I don't care if other people have a problem with it. I will make everyone do it. So, because it's such a good release for me. So, there have been lots of times when my son has gone beyond what I thought of autism as, and the limitations and challenges with autism. And he has taught me and he has shown me a whole new side of things. So, one of the things that I would like to share is when he was 2 years old, uh, he got so mesmerized with water. And I've heard this a lot, that autistic kids love water. They play a lot with water. He, I think one of his first words, and he would only speak in one word at the time, was pati, because he heard us say pani in Marathi. तो वो पानी शब्द उसने पार्टी बनाया, but he wanted to describe, even if it's incorrect, even if it's, and I did not correct him at all. I was so proud that he wants to describe everything he sees, and he's so curious. उसको इतनी like curiosity है सारे जग में, जितनी चीजें हैं उसके बारे में उसको सीखना है, अपने तरीके से सीखना है. I have never had to handhold him. वो independently curious nature है उसका, तो he tries to find out as much as he can about things that interest him. So few things that have interested him are talking to people about various subjects. So he loves bonding with people. He loves and I've also seen like a strength of his was how loyal he is to those connections that he makes. So अपने तरीके से वो अपने फ्रेंडशिप्स बनाता है. इवन लाइक वो 4-5 साल का बच्चा था, केजी में पढ़ता था, तभी भी लॉयल्टी उसका बहुत हाई था अपने फ्रेंड्स के लिए. और जब टीचर उनको डांटती थी, वो खुद उनको डांटता था कि चुप हो जाओ, चुप हो जाओ. लाइक ही वाज हेल्पिंग द टीचर माइंड देम. अ लॉट ऑफ चैलेंजेस, उसको बहुत सेंसरी चैलेंजेस भी है, लेकिन ही ट्राइज टू मैनेज देम, क्योंकि उसको स्कूल जाना है, उसको अपने इंटरेस्ट के जगह पे जाना है. बट सेंसरी साउंड्स है, जो अनप्रेडिक्टेबल चीजें हैं, वो सब है. he knows that he needs to for some time tolerate, and we give him all the tools. हेडफोन्स है, अदर थिंग्स है, लेकिन वो बहुत कंफर्टेबल होता है हेडफोन्स पहनने में और सारी चीजें वो करने में, बिकॉज ही वांट्स टू गो एंड एक्सप्लोर. तो a lot of these things are part of our journey, and we are discovering new things every day. So it has been wonderful. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Vinita. I think Vinita spoke very beautiful about many strengths of Mihir, and what actually stands out to me here is that how Mihir has taught people to accept him the way he is, and that is the biggest strength. That he is happy with who he is, and he is constantly exploring and figuring out like, who am I? And similarly, other people are also coming and trying to know him better through different activities and through different situations. And that has helped Vinita as a mother to understand about autism way more than just the diagnosis. Thank you so much, Vinita. I'll move next to Miss Anjali. Anjali, you have been teaching and supporting children for years now. Uh, I'm really, really curious to know, what does seeing strengths mean to you when you walk into a classroom which is full of diversity? How does that become visible to you as a teacher in a classroom and beyond, and what that journey has been meant to you?
धन्यवाद मुझे यहाँ बुलाने के लिए। सबको नमस्ते। मेरे बाल काले हैं नहीं, लेकिन मैंने किए हैं और मैंने चश्मा पहना हुआ है और मैंने नीले रंग की कमीज पहनी है। तो मेरे लिए स्ट्रेंथ ये है कि बच्चों के मेरे लिए क्षमताओं को देखने का मतलब यह है कि अपनी नजर को जानबूझकर बच्चे के डायग्नोसिस, मतलब उनके निदान, उनके लेबल या उसकी पढ़ाई की कमियों से हटाकर सक्रिय रूप से यह खोजना कि किस चीज को देखकर उसकी आंखों में चमक आ जाती है। इस बात को स्वीकार करना कि हर बच्चे के लिए सीखने का एक शुरुआती रास्ता होता है। हम हमेशा ऐसे नहीं बोल सकते कि ये नहीं कर सकता, वो नहीं कर सकता। हमें ये देखना है कि वो क्या कर सकता है। तो वो बंद दरवाजे जो हमारी और लोगों की नजरों में होते हैं कि इसके तो दरवाजा बंद है, ये बंद है, उस सही दरवाजे को ढूंढना कि कौन से दरवाजे से हम उसके दिल में घुस सकते हैं, ये देखना बहुत ज्यादा जरूरी है। तो उसे ढूंढना चाहिए हमें, ये मेरा मानना है। तो इसके लिए मैं ऐसा करती हूँ कि आई ऑलवेज डेली ऑब्जर्वेशन में, जैसे मेरे कोई बच्चा है क्लास में बहुत ही शाय है और नॉन वर्बल है, सो हाउ आई नोटिस इट, लाइक व्हेन अ चाइल्ड इज टू एंग्शियस और शाय, बहुत शर्मिला है, उसे हिंदी पढ़ना नहीं है, या मैं हिंदी टीचर हूँ, तो उसे हिंदी पढ़ना नहीं है या लिखना नहीं है, तो आई डोंट फोर्स इट। आई लुक एट देयर एबिलिटी, आई लुक एट हिज एबिलिटी टू अंडरस्टैंड द कॉन्सेप्ट। सो भाषा ये नहीं है कि सिर्फ लिखना ही भाषा है, एक बोलना और समझना भी भाषा का रूप ही है, एक कम्युनिकेशन में आता है। सो एंड दिस अंडरस्टैंडिंग कॉन्सेप्ट थ्रू ऑल्टरनेटिव मीडियम्स। So in my classroom, I do the strategy like I tell them to draw. अगर वो नहीं लिख सकता है, बोल नहीं सकता है हिंदी में, तो कोई बात नहीं, वो लिख कर मुझे ड्रॉ करके बताए और फिर उसकी बातों को वो इंग्लिश में मुझे एक्सप्लेन करे। और जब वो बातें इंग्लिश में मुझे एक्सप्लेन करता है, तो मैं उसे धीरे धीरे हिंदी में एक आध दो शब्द पूछती रहती हूँ कि बेटा इसको हिंदी में क्या कहते हैं, मैं भूल गई, आप जरा बता सकते हैं क्या मुझे? तो बोलता है हाँ हाँ मुझे पता है। तो वो थोड़ी धीरे से बोलेगा कि हाँ भाई, इसको पंखा बोलते हैं, या इसको हेल्थ को हम स्वस्थ बोलते हैं। तो इस तरह से वो बहुत ही इजीली धीरे धीरे हिंदी में बोलने लगता है, और उसको मैं फोर्स नहीं करती, जितना बोले उतना ठीक है। एंड सो दिस इज माय डेली ऑब्जर्वेशन। एंड ऑल्सो मैं हर एक वीक में एक बच्चे को अच्छी तरह से ऑब्जर्व करती हूँ, लाइक उसके साथ में खाना खाती हूँ, या अगर मुझे कोई हमारा चेक इन टाइम होता है मॉर्निंग में आधा घंटे का, तो मैं देखती हूँ कि वो कैसे अपना डेस्क ऑर्गेनाइज कर रहा है, या अपने पीयर के साथ कंफर्टेबल है कि नहीं, और कोई स्ट्रगल कर रहा है तो वो उसकी मदद कर रहा है। तो इस तरह से मैं उसको देखती हूँ और उसके साथ उस तरह की स्ट्रेटेजी को अपनाती हूँ।
Thank you, Anjali, for sharing that. What I heard is that you spoke about that there are many other things apart from academics when you enter the
Yes.
school. And we need to focus on those things apart from academics, and how beautifully you use different ways, different strategies, so that the strength comes out. If a child is not able to do something the way you want the child to do, you do offer choices and different ways of bringing it out, so that they are able to learn, they are able to feel safe and belonged to what you are offering. Thank you so much, Anjali, for sharing that. Coming to Nidhi. Nidhi, thank you for joining the space again. Can you share an experience, perhaps from your work at Rising Flame or from your own journey, where you witnessed a shift in how someone's disability was seen from a limitation to a strength based, and What made that moment possible?
Right. Thank you so much, first of all, for having me in this very important space and with such really such prestigious on such a prestigious panel. I'm really grateful to be here. A quick image description of myself. मैं लोगों को बता दूं, मैं खुद ब्लाइंड हूँ, तो मेरे डिस्क्रिप्शन अगर ऊपर नीचे हुआ तो आप भी आंख बंद करके इमेजिन कर लीजिएगा. I'm wearing an orange shirt, I'm wearing a golden chain, छोटी छोटी गोल्डन बालियां पहनी हुई हैं और बाल पीछे टाई अप किए हुए हैं. I basically, for me, it's very interesting when we're talking about children with disabilities, right? And we're talking about diagnosis that focuses on the lack and strengths that are actually within the children. I will try and keep a flow in one of the languages and then summarize in another language. So when we're talking about what strengths and how do we see it, right? I think the first shift happens when the people who are providing the diagnosis or the primary caregivers, and both of them, because they are the first interaction of the child, right? So the diagnostic space is maybe one of the first interactions, and the caregivers are the continuous and first interactions when ableism cuts over there. When you cut out of the ableistic beliefs that you have. When I say ableistic, आपने already prejudice की तरह decide कर लिया है कि disabled होना और कोई भी अगर विकलांगता हो तो disabled होने से ये कमी होती है. आप ये नहीं कर पाएंगे, आप ऐसे नहीं बोल पाएंगे, आप इस तरह से चल नहीं पाएंगे, आप इस क्लासरूम में बैठ नहीं पाएंगे, आप आगे जाके जॉब कर पाएंगे कि नहीं कर पाएंगे, आपकी शादी होगी कि नहीं. ये सारा ableism एक झटके में एक फ्रेमवर्क में ableism उसे डाल देता है, right? So when the ableism is cut in therapeutic practices, in medical practices, in caregivers' attitude, immediately you will be able to see the strengths within the children. Now, what do I perceive as strengths? And an example of how ableism can impact and overshadow the strengths. मैं एक छोटा सा उदाहरण दूंगी अपनी जिंदगी से. I will of course bring a lot of examples from the children that we have worked with at Rising Flame. But the point is, और यहाँ पर मैं किसी की निंदा या कहीं टिक्का टिप्पणी नहीं कर रही हूँ, पर जब मुझे डायग्नोसिस मिला था, कुछ मैं 14-15 साल की थी और आई वाज डायग्नोस्ड विद एन इनक्योरेबल इरिवर्सिबल आई डिसऑर्डर. तो तब ये हुआ था कि जो डॉक्टर थे, वन ऑफ द डॉक्टर्स, कई डॉक्टर्स के पास पेरेंट्स लेकर जाते हैं. वन ऑफ द डॉक्टर्स टोल्ड माय फादर दैट ये लड़की है, आप इसकी अब तो ये कोई काम की नहीं है, तो आप पे बोझ ना बन जाए, इसलिए आप इसके फेलिंग साइट के बारे में किसी को ना बताएं, हम सब छुपाएंगे. एक्टिवली मिलकर अब 3-4 साल या 18 साल के होते ही इससे छुपाकर किसी से शादी करा दीजिए. In that one ableistic belief that the child who's diagnosed with any kind of disability is going to become a burden, we do a series of things that could harm the child. Right now, in that sense, my family, of course, did not pay heed to this advice and worked very differently. Now, what that difference was that in emerging of strengths, right? Allowing the curiosity, allowing expression. अगर आप कोई भी तरह के विकलांगता के बारे में, बच्चों के बारे में बात कर रहे हैं कि ये विकलांग बच्चा है, इसे दिखाई नहीं देता, ये ऑटिस्टिक है, ये सुन नहीं सकता, जो भी हो, curiosity is to explore the same world in a way that's accessible for them, right? Removing the feeling of guilt. आप जब उनके आसपास से जो शर्मिंदगी और गिल्ट को हटा देते हैं विकलांगता को लेकर, तो बच्चा भी सर उठा के बोलता है, ओके मुझे थोड़ा सा ना दिखता नहीं है, आप ये बता सकते हैं क्या, या आप ये मुझे मदद कर सकते हैं क्या. So the ability to ask for support, articulate the support that they need, or even ensure that they get that, right? That becomes their strength. For children with disabilities and their strengths to emerge, what's really important is to work in collaboration. The first speaker basically said that we move from what's not possible to what's really possible, right? And by shifting that gaze as practitioners, as parents, as caregivers, we basically allow the strengths to emerge, the strength of curiosity, the strength of having an opinion, the strength of being okay with imperfection, right? And again, as a disabled person, when you're teaching the child to, let's say, serve their own food, they may spill the food once, twice, 3 times, 4 times. If you're not okay with that, immediately a very important life skill goes for a toss. The child says, okay, I cannot do this. I'm dependent on someone for food. I'm dependent on someone for choosing my clothes, which means that larger decision making, larger choices get impacted. So emerging of strengths for me, and I'll wrap up here because I know we have many questions. For children with disabilities, the first thing is that children with disabilities do have a lot of strengths. But they will only emerge if we allow them to emerge, if we provide that space for them to emerge, the space which is non-ableist, the space which is non-judgmental, the space which is encouraging, and the space that is safe. Thank you.
थैंक यू निधि. एक्चुअली आपने बहुत सुंदर तरह से ऑफ कोर्स अपना जर्नी एंड एक्सपीरियंस शेयर किया, लेकिन थ्रू दैट आई थिंक यू समहाउ समराइज द होल thing that we are talking about in terms of seeing strengths. And जो मुझे समझ में आ रही है सबके सुनने के बाद कि ऐसा नहीं है कि बच्चों में स्ट्रेंथ नहीं है. हर बच्चा उसमें बहुत बहुत स्ट्रेंथ्स होते हैं. इट ऑल डिपेंड्स ऑन अस कि हम उसको किस तरह से देख रहे हैं. हमारा वो शिफ्ट हो रहा है कि नई लेंस में जो हमको हेल्प करेगा वो अपॉर्चुनिटीज़ ओपन करने में, वो स्ट्रेंथ्स को देखने में. क्योंकि मैनी टाइम्स वो हाइड कर जाते हैं सिस्टम्स के अंदर. हमारे सिस्टम्स इतने समटाइम्स टफ होते हैं, दे आर सो टफ एंड इट्स डिफ़िकल्ट टू नेविगेट वो सिस्टम्स के बीच से. सो इसीलिए वो स्ट्रेंथ्स कहीं शायद हम देख नहीं पाते हैं, वो छिप जाते हैं. सो इट्स ऑन अस हाउ वी आर एबल टू unfold that and try to look at the strengths as much as possible. Thank you everyone for that. I will move now to and shift our lens a little bit to now understanding कि जब हमको स्ट्रेंथ समझ में आ गया है और हम ये बिलीव करते हैं कि सब बच्चे में स्ट्रेंथ है, सब इंडिविजुअल में स्ट्रेंथ है, हम किस तरह के पॉसिबिलिटीज़ ओपन अप कर सकते हैं उनके लिए. हम कैसे ये देख सकते हैं कि हम कैसे अपॉर्चुनिटीज़ एनवायरनमेंट्स क्रिएट कर रहे हैं कि वो चैनलाइज्ड हो बराबर से. हाउ डू वी क्रिएट अपॉर्चुनिटीज़, हाउ डू वी चेंज आवर एनवायरनमेंट्स इन अ वे दैट वो स्ट्रेंथ्स बाहर निकल के आए मोर एंड मोर. तो इसके लिए मैं वापस विनीता आपके पास फर्स्ट आऊँगी कि एज अ पेरेंट आपने बहुत ब्यूटीफुली स्ट्रेंथ्स के बारे में बात की. व्हाट डज इट एक्चुअली लुक लाइक जब एक एजुकेटर या फिर एक टीचर जो जेन्युइनली आपके बच्चे के स्ट्रेंथ को महसूस कर सकते हैं या देख सकते हैं, उस समय या उसके बाद आपके बच्चे के लिए वो क्या चेंज निकल के आता है? क्योंकि उस एजुकेटर ने देखा स्ट्रेंथ आपके बच्चे में, उससे क्या पॉसिबिलिटीज़ निकल के आती है और फिर उसके बाद उसका लर्निंग, उसका पार्टिसिपेशन, उसका ग्रोथ कैसे चेंज हो सकता है, कैसे या चेंज हो जाता है जब ये रिकग्निशन होती है ऑफ द स्ट्रेंथ.
So thank you for asking. That's a very good question, and that makes me think of how many in so many situations how few those great teachers are, where they actually look at my child and don't see the deficit, they see the strengths. So it is dependent on teacher to teacher. And each teacher, at least in the school that Mihir has been in, have been supportive to some extent. So I've not had a problem there. But when a teacher goes out of her way to recognize and to include my child in the activities that he is scared of being included in, or he wouldn't naturally want to be in, तो जब वो अपॉर्चुनिटी उनको दी जाती है, मीर को दी जाती है कि कम बी पार्ट ऑफ आर this activity, this celebration that we are doing, this no gas cooking activity, which my child genuinely would not want to participate in because he's had some bad experiences in the past, or he's just not that extroverted. लेकिन टीचर के एनकरेजमेंट से वो अपने शेल से बाहर आ सकता है एंड ही ट्राइज टू एक्सपीरियंस. अगर उसको कोई प्रॉब्लम होती है तो फिर द टीचर देन रियलाइजेस एंड शी अलाउज हिम टू पार्टिसिपेट इन हिज ओन वे. तो ऐसा नहीं है कि तुमको स्टेज पे खड़ा रहना पड़ेगा, तुमको आई कांटेक्ट करना ही पड़ेगा सबके साथ. यू डू इट द वे यू कैन डू इट, एंड बिकॉज ऑफ दैट it has helped him be comfortable in the environment that he is. Also, with the sensory issues that he has, he has been able to even have fun in those environments. He had a wonderful last year. That his last the previous year, grade 5 was the best year for him because the teacher recognized his strengths. She also included him. Like I could see him in the videos that they shared. तो मुझे पता था he is having a good time. Also, friendships were encouraged, and the peer group is so good in a school. Like not all of the kids, but some of the kids, they do help him. उसको mobility issues है, तो they will help him with mobility. So even thanks to them, he has been looking forward to having lunch with his friends. He may not want to go to school every day because of academic pressures and everything. Lekin there are some more people in there who he is excited to see or he's excited to talk to. Even now, after he transition to grade 6, the grade 5 teacher still takes time to go and see if he is okay in the break and to talk to him. And he comes back and tells me, "Oh, I met this ma'am. I met Anjali ma'am, and I'm so happy." And I can see it in his tone, I can see it in his voice that an anxious kid who in a school environment would get very overwhelmed. He loves this particular teacher, and he loves being part of that environment. So this is one of the examples. There are a few more, but I can, I can go on and on. But thank you very much.
Thank you, Vinita. Or I'm sure you can go on. And I think one thing that आपने बहुत अच्छे से बोला is कि through different examples, what I could hear is the collaboration. कहीं ना कहीं collaboration matter करता है, और जब teachers उसको महसूस करते हैं, उस पर believe करते हैं, then some kind of magic can happen because of that. And I think it's really beautiful to hear what you shared in terms of what is happening with Mihit. Thank you. Koili, I'll come back to you in terms of, like Vinita shared, that yes, as a parent, how she is always on top of things and figuring out how things are going for her and the child. Your experience with families and with parents have been forever, and you work at the intersection of diagnosis and possibility. In your experience, what does strength-based assessment looks like in practice when you are meeting a child and a family for the first time? How do you go about figuring that out for the family and the child, and what kind of language you use in your reports and conversations with families, which can open up huge possibilities but can also limit a lot of things based on the conversation that goes with you?
Thanks, Joita. I think in different ways, all four of us will probably say similar things, and from different perspectives. So for me, when I meet a child and family, and often the family is there because someone from school has asked them to meet me, or they themselves have recognized that the child is struggling with certain things, or maybe some other doctor has sent them to us. When we are looking at a child's strengths-based assessment, yes, I am looking for what the child is able to do. I'm looking at what the child is able to do well. बच्चा क्या कर सकता है, बच्चा क्या अच्छे से कर सकता है. But there's one more piece. I'm also looking at all the factors that enable the child to do well, right? So it's not just about what can the child do, but what enables the child to do well, right? So which means I'm looking at two sets of things. I'm looking at what's within the child, but very importantly, what's around the child. So when I'm saying what's within the child, it could be the personality of the child. Sometimes we have children who are very friendly, ebullient, who are bhag ke room mein aa jayenge, and you can easily say that, this child is going to be the teacher's pet, and, the parents will tell me, is bacche ko to sab pasand karte hain, uske saath sab khelna chahte hain, which is a great thing. On the other hand, that day I met a child who I said कि आप ये जाके बाहर दीदी को दे दोगे, and this child has been coming to meet for the last many years. He knows the front office दीदी really well, but the mother told me that वो नए लोगों के साथ बिल्कुल नहीं जाएगा. which made me think and share with them. But that means कि आपको बिल्कुल चिंता नहीं है कि वो किसी अनजाने आदमी का हाथ पकड़ के चला जाएगा। तो मम्मी बोली हाँ बिल्कुल, इसलिए मुझे उसको बाहर बैठा के रखने में कोई चिंता नहीं है, क्योंकि मुझे मालूम है वो किसी के साथ, अनजान आदमी के साथ नहीं चला जाएगा, राइट? सो फॉर हर दैट वाज सच अ बिग सोर्स ऑफ रिलीफ कि this is, while this may occur, seem to be a problem, but it is something that's wonderful and so relieving for the child, for the parent. Then there is, of course, how's the child's personality? What are the child's interest? क्या चीजें हैं जो उसे पसंद है, क्या चीजें उसको प्रेफरेंसेस हैं, क्या है वो जो करना चाहते हैं। जब मैं बात करती हूँ कि बच्चे के चार एनवायरमेंट में क्या है, व्हाट्स अराउंड द चाइल्ड, there are, we are looking at who are the people, right? So people within the family, who is it that helps the child be their best self? So maybe the parents will tell me, वो ना किसी की बात नहीं सुनता है, पर अपनी दादी की बात जरूर सुनेगा. He will only listen to the grandmother. And I think that then I'm curious about what is different about how grandmother is. And they'll tell me that grandmother ना बिल्कुल गुस्सा नहीं करती. She doesn't lose her cool. She speaks very clearly and she speaks in very kind language. And then we break down what kind language means to the child, right? That there is no threat involved, there is no high pitch involved, that really makes the kid worried. Similarly, it could be he doesn't wave to anybody in the lift, but she will wave to that one neighbor on that one floor. And why is that? Because that neighbor never says hi first and always just keeps a hand out, and my child goes and gives them a high five, right? So it's about what do people do in their environment to enable children to be their best selves. But there's one more piece. What's it in the environment? And if we just look, some children do well in quiet spaces. Some children do well in spaces that allow them movement. Some, children do well with music. Some children do well with very loud, boisterous children with whom they can run around and be their funny selves, right? So looking, not just when we talk about strengths, sometimes parents will ask me, मैडम वो आप मुझे बताओ मेरे बच्चे की स्पेशल स्किल क्या है? And it's not that there is one special skill that is specific to every child. All children have their strengths. All children have learning styles that work best for them. It's our job to figure out what is it that they do well and how.
Thank you so much, Koili. आपका last statement बहुत बहुत powerful है, and the hope is that ये panel discussion से, ये summit से सब लोग ये लेके जा सके वापस कि strength is something that it's on us to figure it out. Everybody has it out there. How we are creating opportunities is on us to figure that out. हम थोड़ा और आगे बढ़ेंगे और मैं अंजलि के पास आऊँगी. अंजलि, आपके एक्सपीरियंस में आपने बोला कि स्ट्रेंथ्स इम्पॉर्टेंट है, मैं डिफरेंट एक्टिविटीज़ यूज़ करके उसको करती हूँ जितना पॉसिबल है. आपके हिसाब से अंजलि क्या गैप या डिफ़िकल्टी है इसको जब एक टीचर देख पाती है सर्टन स्ट्रेंथ्स इन अ चाइल्ड और वो ट्रांसलेट भी करना चाहती है in the classroom? What becomes difficult for teachers to make that happen? Because we are talking about environment, we are talking about changing the environment, we are talking about changing the structure. आपके experience में, why is it becoming so difficult for some of the teachers to do that in mainstream schools?
Thank you, Zoita. The biggest barrier is the cognitive overload. जो बच्चों के दिमागी थकान एक बहुत बड़ी चीज है. मेरी क्लास में मैं एक कक्षा 1 से 5 के बच्चों को पढ़ाती हूँ. एक मिनट ना. मैं 1 से 5 के बच्चों को पढ़ाती हूँ. तो मैंने ये देखा है कक्षा में कि बच्चों को अपने बोर्ड से, ब्लैक बोर्ड से कॉपी करना नोटबुक में बहुत ज्यादा डिफिकल्ट हो जाता है. क्योंकि उनको ऐसा लगता है कि ये पहले तो कौन सा अक्षर है, फिर वो अक्षर में कौन सी मात्रा लगी हुई है, उसको फिर नीचे उतारते उतारते, जैसे ऊपर लिखा है मैंने खरगोश, तो नीचे नोटबुक में आते आते वो ख का ग हो जाता है। तो ये बहुत ही बच्चों को सोचने में बहुत डिफिकल्ट होता है कि मैं बोर्ड से कैसे उतारूं। तो उसके लिए मैंने बहुत सारे आइडियाज की हैं बच्चों के साथ कि when a student has a beautiful thought, suppose he has a thought like कि अगर वो कॉपी नहीं कर पा रहा है और उसके पास आइडिया है कि मैं क्या कर सकता हूँ, तो सपोज लाइक उसके पास मैं बैठ जाती हूँ और उसको मैं पूछती हूँ कि मैंने क्या लिखा है बोर्ड पे, एटलीस्ट वो पढ़ सकता है कि नहीं पढ़ सकता है। तो वो पढ़ता है मेरे सामने, लेकिन उसको नीचे लिखते समय डिफिकल्टी होती है। सो मैं क्या करती हूँ कि मैं उसके पास बैठ के उसकी नोटबुक में लिखती हूँ, जिससे उसको ऊपर बोर्ड पे देखना ना पड़े और वो नोटबुक में देखकर लिख पाता है कि नहीं। ये रिसेंटली मेरी क्लास में ऐसे हुआ था कि वो बोर्ड पे देखकर लिख नहीं पा रहा था, तो मैं उसके पास बैठी, क्योंकि आई गो अराउंड द क्लास एंड आई ऑब्जर्व्ड हिम दैट ही कुड नॉट राइट, सो आई राइट डाउन इन हिज बुक, और उसकी बुक में लिखा तो उसने बहुत अच्छी तरह से वो लिख पाया आराम से, क का क लिख पाया, ख का ख लिख पाया। तो एक ये होता है कि वर्ड्स डायरेक्टली इनटू देयर नोटबुक, so it is very helpful for them and it reduces the एंजाइटी के लाइक मुझे अभी बोर्ड पे देखना है और बोर्ड से लिखना है, वो एंजाइटी दूर हो जाती है। तो इट इज वेरी वेरी इजी फॉर हिम टू राइट डाउन फ्रॉम द नोटबुक टू दिस। एंड अनदर एक ट्रिक है मेरी कि लाइक अभी मैं क्लास में सिंगुलर प्लूरल पढ़ा रही थी, तो वो लिखना नहीं चाह रहा था कि पंखा का पंखे। तो मैंने कहा कि ठीक है, अगर आपको पंखा का पंखे नहीं लिखना है तो आप पंखे बना दीजिए। तो उसके बुक में मैंने 2 कॉलम बना के दिए, सिंगुलर एंड प्लूरल, ऊपर लिखा एक वचन बहुवचन। उसको हिंदी में बोलना आ रहा था एक वचन बहुवचन, बट वो लिखना नहीं चाह रहा था। तो मैंने कहा ठीक है, आप एक सिंगुलर कॉलम में एक पंखा बनाएंगे और प्लूरल कॉलम में कितने पंखे बनाएंगे। तो मैंने कहा था क्लास में कि एक से ज्यादा चीजों को हम प्लूरल बोलते हैं, बहुवचन बोलते हैं। तो उसने 2-3 पंखे बनाए वहां पर। फिर बाद में एक मैंने ऐसा शब्द दिया था क्लास में कि लाइक समस्या। अभी समस्या को कैसे ड्रॉ करेगा, प्रॉब्लम को कैसे ड्रॉ करेगा, तो उसको वो नहीं आया। तो उसने बोला कि मिस क्या मैं लिख सकता हूँ। मैंने कहा हाँ लिखो, आई एम तो वेरी हैप्पी इफ यू राइट। तो देन व्हाट डिड ही डू, उसने एक वचन कॉलम के नीचे आ लिखा और बहुवचन कॉलम के नीचे उसने एक ही मात्रा लगाई, ए लिखा, उसने समस्याएं इस तरह से लिखा। तो लाइक I was very happy कि like उसको समझ में आ रहा है कॉन्सेप्ट। So rather than being mechanical, he has to write correct spelling, at least he is understanding the concept. So मेरा इंटेंशन यही रहता है कि बच्चा कॉन्सेप्ट समझ रहा है कि नहीं समझ रहा है, भले वो लिख पा रहा है नहीं लिख पा रहा है। अदरवाइज समटाइम्स आई टेल हिम टू से orally to me, and they also do it in the pair also. So after a few minutes the child look at the like, बहुत बार उसको मैंने जब बोला कि ये ड्राइंग करो, तो थोड़ी देर के बाद उसको लगा कि नहीं ये बहुत टीडियस वर्क है। लाइक मैंने एक मछली बनाई, फिर अनेक मछलियां, तो उसकी जो डिटेल्स बनानी है मछलियां की, उसको बहुत डिफिकल्ट हो गया। तो बोला कि मिस कैन आई राइट डाउन। मैंने कहा या ओके यू कैन राइट डाउन। सो लाइक दिस इट्स अ वेरी गुड थिंग, लाइक इन अ फन ट्रिक ही केम बैक टू द राइटिंग and paying more attention in the class. So it was a very good thing for me, and I use this strategy. Mostly drawing is my strategy, and sometimes I do it orally. So it's a wonderful thing कि like एक चीज बनाने में इजी होता है, लेकिन बहुत सारी चीजें बनाने में वो इतना थक गया कि बोले मैं इससे अच्छा तो मैं लिख ही देता हूँ। मैंने कहा ओके आई एम वेलकम तो लिख दो। So this is my
Thank you. Thank you,
thank you.
Anjali. हाँ, डेफिनेटली ऑफर करना स्ट्रैटेजीज एंड डिफरेंट वेज तो ऑफ कोर्स हेल्पफुल होता है, बट आई थिंक जो आपने बोला कि ये जो कॉग्निटिव ओवरलोड, और ये कॉग्निटिव ओवरलोड सिर्फ बच्चों में नहीं, टीचर्स में भी बहुत ज़्यादा होता है। सो जिसके कारण पूरे दिन में इतना कुछ उनको देखना पड़ता है कि ऐसा नहीं है कि वो करना नहीं चाहते हैं मैनी टाइम्स, बट कैसे करें, कहाँ है बैंडविड्थ, कहाँ है टाइम, कहाँ है प्लानिंग का सिचुएशन, और इसके कारण समटाइम्स वो बहुत ज़्यादा डिफ़िकल्ट हो जाता है। थैंक यू। निधि, मैं आपके पास आऊँगी। So Nidhi, many organizations they are now talking about disability inclusion policies, and Yet people with disabilities remain significantly underrepresented in leadership and decision making. Where do you think lies the gap, and what are some of the things that you have done or your organization have done to actually work in translating such policies to real
Right.
strength-based practices?
Right. Fantastic. What a question. Why is it important to be talking about, it's called the Inclusive School Summit. Why is it important to talk about school spaces? That's where the leadership begins, right? What is leadership? It's the opportunity that people with disabilities get. It's the belief that they receive, any young person, sorry, not even person with disability, and the investment that's done in them. Now, investment is not just monetary investment, right? Thinking about, okay, did you pay the school fees? Have they gone to a good institution? It's also investment of time. It's also investment through a mentorship. It's also investment through family belief. It's also investment through the informal networks of learning and peer support. That is where the beginning can be. And that's where the beginning is for most people. We're really talking about building an ecosystem where people, our children and young people with disabilities, receive the opportunities, benefit from the investment, and are given equal platforms to present, to show up, to talk, to articulate, and to take decisions. Once we do this, we'll see that the leadership pipeline starts growing, right? You cannot suddenly at 25 say, okay, now we'll make you a leader, because the base, the foundation, the 20 years are really missing. Of course, we will and we do provide the opportunities. But when we're thinking about transitioning from special schools to inclusive schools, are we doing that bridge? Are we creating those bridges for students to understand? Are we building those bridges in terms of the institutions themselves? Are we providing those, information isolation that children with disabilities go through? Are we fulfilling that through extra steps, right? So I think having what we have been doing are a couple of projects that I can talk about. One is the life skills education project, where we are providing this missing information and opportunity to children who are studying still in special schools, right? And bridging that gap through this dedicated program that's run within the institutional framework from grade 5 to 7 and then 8 to 10. Some of the other programs include a fellowship called Empower to Rise, where we are providing monetary support to advance academic pursuits. Nothing new. Many people provide scholarships, but what's different is that we're not just saying, hey, use the money for the fees, because we realize when you're a student with a disability, your fees is probably just a significant component, but just one out of probably 10 components to make your education possible. The accessibility barrier, the inaccessible libraries, the assistive devices required, the aids and technology required, the tools required, the inaccessible infrastructure, so accessible accommodation required, accessible transport required, sign language interpreter required, special educator support required, shadow teacher required. For all of this, the students can use the monetary support, and with that, we couple a mentoring opportunity. So really bringing it 360 degrees, where we're thinking about both monetary and mentoring support to advance the academic pursuits, the professional ambition of students with disabilities, to believe in them. And the third and a very critical program is a national leadership program for women with disabilities from 20 to 35. In fact, applications are right now open for that. And really looking at how other intersections, how gender and disability intersects, what happens when you have children with disabilities, but even within those children, when you have girls with disabilities, right? I want to go back to a 5-year-old study. So it was during COVID, but very telling findings, right? Where in economically underprivileged households, and digital learning world, sudden shift to that, when there was only one digital device, the non-disabled child was prioritized. But when there were two disabled children and the genders were different, the boy with a disability was prioritized over the girl with a disability. And so keeping all of this in mind, keeping the social stigma, keeping the additional barriers in mind, we run program like I Can Lead to provide this national level leadership supports, skill building, which thinks about personal growth and professional journey, skill building, so that we have women with disabilities who are leaders of tomorrow, right? So again, investing in them, believing in them, providing not just knowledge, skills, trainings, but also life coach, mentoring, and having a 360-degree of investment, right? So again, just to sort of again summarize, what we are saying is that for children with disabilities to become leaders of tomorrow, and how policy can translate when we have more and more people with diverse disabilities sitting at the table, when they are leading these conversations, when they are driving the solutions and saying, this is what works for us. You don't decide what you should be doing for us without us, right? And so being a part of solutions, leading conversations, not just within disability, let's say thinking about sustainability and climate change, thinking about health and where we are going with that, thinking about food security and justice. In every arena of life, when we have a disabled person leading from the front, we'll have solutions that are inclusive and accessible for all. And for that, we need to start early to provide the education, the support, the belief, the opportunity, and most importantly, the holistic investment that every child and young person believes and deserves. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Nidhi. That was actually a beautiful and very powerful way of putting it out that so many things matter when it comes to actually leading from the front and how things can be made possible. In our conversation today, we heard a lot about strengths. We heard a lot about how we can create opportunities. We spoke about how different people play a role in creating the environment differently and making things possible. Towards the end of this discussion, I really want to hear from all of you that we all believe in strengths, we are all moving towards that, we want to make it happen. But at the end of the day, sometimes, whether as a clinician or whether as a teacher or whether as a parent or an advocate, how do you hold on to this strength based understanding and approach when the we know out there the world is so difficult, there are so much of pressure, whether it's academic pressure, whether it's expectations, our own bandwidth, our own ability to make things happen. What are some of the ways that all of you hold on to that hope and strength based approach while you navigate through these challenges and moving ahead in your own context of work and life? Anybody can begin. Maybe Vinita, you can start as a parent. How do you hold on to that?
Thank you. Thank you so much. First of all, to build strength, we stop looking at the deficits first and we look at the strengths. We focus on the child's strengths, the child's way of doing things. And my son, like literally, as he taught me about the world that he is comfortable with, the world that the supports that he needs, and at the same time asking therapists, being guided in this journey, getting information, right? And realizing we need supports, what kind of supports do we need, and asking for the supports from the environment where he finds it difficult to be in. So this could include school, for example. It could include a therapy center where he's doing his therapies, or it could include any environment where he is, where he needs support. So understanding that support is needed, what kind of support is needed, and doing advocacy, helping people understand that, especially in school where teachers may not have training in a particular disability or understanding how to work with accommodations. So giving them, being in regular contact with them, helping them understand that my child needs this in order to do this in class. So where he has trouble writing, what accommodations can be given to him during exam times when there is pressure, what accommodations, how can we make it spread a little less stressful. So all of these things is what I have to work on, and I have to understand, and I have to also ask my son for inputs because he is the expert and he has to guide me. So beautifully, I mean, we know that, they have it hard out there in the world. It is a very difficult experience for them, and with their sensory issues also added to it. So what he needs to be comfortable, how he needs help with communicating his issues with certain teachers, or if there is a problem in class, जब कोई टीचर डांटती है बच्चों को, he gets very very upset with that because of the tone, because of the aggressiveness, or sometimes the teacher is just she is not able to say things in a nice polite way. So how do we handle those kind of things? Do we need additional therapies to help him communicate? So all of those things, avenues where we build better if we have that information, if we have that support, and if we have that guidance. So that primarily is what keeps me positive in this journey, and I want my child to also understand that this is positive, this is not a negative, I don't want it to be a negative experience for him. So he also learns to advocate for himself and to ask for those things which he needs. So for example, he was able to as we talked about how we could make the school environment better, if he didn't want to participate in the annual day, he just told the teacher without even me coming into that space, and the teacher later checked with me, उसको annual day में नहीं participate करना है ये, is it okay, or should I talk to him, or should I? So then I said no ma'am, क्योंकि उसको sensory challenges है, loud music रहता है, and it is the whole day from 9 in the morning till evening, so it is not going to be possible for us. So for that, can we have that allowance ki we don't participate in those? So having that ease to kind of ask for support and to be informed always, that has helped me and my son stay in a positive strength-based mindset. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Vinita, for sharing that. I'll quickly move on to the others as well. Kohli, I'll go to you, and followed by Anjali and Nidhi.
Thank you so much. So beautifully said by Vinita. And I'm thinking that, it's of course parents like Vinita who often help professionals like me see what's beautiful, what's the smartest thing their child has learned, what is it that they have really picked up in the last few days or since we last met. But also there are times when parents will tell us, honestly, at this point, there's nothing that is going well. Right? And Abhi, if I ask them, okay, can you tell me something that you really like that he or she's doing? Honestly, abhi kuch bhi nahi hai. And I've also heard teachers who say this, but batane like kuch bhi nahi hai. And that's the time when I think we also have to pause a little and try and listen out. Is there caregiver burnout? Is there teacher fatigue? Right? Because to be able to see and support strengths in others, your own cup has to be filled. And that's really important, is that all of us need to build a system that helps fill each other up. And I think that's what I want to say, that to help others see strengths, I think many times we need our own resources to help fill up our cups.
Thank you, Kohli. That's beautiful. And we'll move to Anjali and then Nidhi.
So, in this support, I wanted to say that as I said, that I have a student in my primary Hindi class who was completely disengaged from writing. So when I gave them the picture composition, he was not ready to write, obviously. I knew he will not write. So what I did a combination of two children, like a peer study. I made it like a game. Suddenly I made it like a game. मैंने कहा, I'm giving दो बच्चों को मैं ग्रुप में बना रही हूँ, और जो पहले लिखकर आएगा एनी 2 सेंटेंसेस, वो ग्रुप जीत जाएगा. तो इस तरह से मैंने एक ऐसे बच्चे को रखा उस बच्चे के साथ जो हिंदी बोलना नहीं जानता है, उसको हिंदी नहीं आती है, और उस बच्चे को हिंदी बोलना आता है लेकिन उसको लिखना नहीं आता है. तो मैंने उन दोनों का ग्रुप बनाया जानबूझकर. और मेरे ग्रुप में क्या हुआ ऐसे करने से कि वो बच्चे ने जब उन्होंने देखा कि टाइम जा रहा है जल्दी जल्दी, तो उसको बोल रहे कि तू बता मैं लिखता हूँ. तो लिख के तू बोल, और मैं लिखता हूँ, क्योंकि उसको पता नहीं। और वो बच्चा जिसको हिंदी लिखना नहीं है, वो बोलने में अच्छा है, वो छोटी छोटी डिटेल्स बहुत अच्छी तरह से हिंदी में बता रहा है कि एक बिल्ली थी, उसके सिर पे एक रिबन लगा था, एक बूढ़ा आदमी था, उसके हाथ से स्टिक गिर गई, तो वो बहुत अच्छी तरह से बता रहा था और वो फटाफट लिख रहा था। तो इस तरह से कॉम्बिनेशन में बच्चों ने बहुत अच्छा काम किया। और ऐसे और भी बहुत सारे मेरे पास एग्जाम्पल है, लेकिन जस्ट सीइंग द टाइम आई एम स्टॉपिंग इट हियर।
थैंक यू अंजलि। हाँ, हम एक्चुअली थोड़ा शॉर्ट पर टाइम के हिसाब से। निधि, आप क्विकली अगर समराइज करना चाहेंगे
बिल्कुल।
क्वेश्चन।
सो सभी ने एक्चुअली काफी सारा कह दिया है कि बच्चे की स्ट्रेंथ्स, पेरेंट्स, कैregivers का सिचुएशन स्ट्रेंथ्स देने का, ये सारा कुछ बहुत अहम है, राइट? मेरे लिए एक थोड़ा सा अलग पर्सपेक्टिव है कि हम स्ट्रेंथ और समाज में कैसे बिल्ड कर सकते हैं बच्चों के लिए, by creating a favorable environment, right? How is environment created? By influencing mindsets. How are mindsets influenced? By positive media representation, by books and stories, by cinema and advertisement, by billboards that treat all kids like kids, by by companies who make games for kids, toys for kids, who can think about children with diverse needs, right? सो आई थिंक ये हम बहुत ज्यादा, क्योंकि हमारे देश और समाज में एक बहुत डिफिकल्ट चीज ये है कि हम बोलते हैं पेरेंट्स और केयर गिवर्स की प्राइमरी रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी है, ये इनका ही काम है, फैमिली का ही काम है कि बच्चों की स्ट्रेंथ और फैमिली ही मेक या ब्रेक कर सकती है। एक तो हमारे पास उतना सोशल सिक्योरिटी सपोर्ट ही नहीं है जो बहुत कई अन्य कंट्रीज में है, ताकि बच्चे को एक डेडिकेटेड इंस्टीट्यूशनल फ्रेमवर्क में एक सपोर्ट मिले कि वो अपने स्ट्रेंथ्स को एनहांस करे, एबिलिटीज को एनहांस करे, और बैरियर्स बिकॉज ऑफ डिसेबिलिटी के बारे में ना सोचे। एक तो वो मिसिंग है, इसलिए हम और भी पेरेंट्स पर, केयर पर और फैमिलीज पर सब डाल देते हैं। मेरे हिसाब से अगर हम वो भी सोशल सिक्योरिटी सेटअप, तो हम उसके लिए एडवोकेट करें ही करें, बट आई थिंक एक जो होलिस्टिक समाज है, अगर आपके पड़ोसी बच्चों को समझ पाए, आपके बिल्डिंग में रहने वाले बच्चों को समझ पाए, आपके आसपास के लोग, जब बच्चा दुकान में जा रहा है उसे अलग नजर से नहीं देखा जाए, हर तरह से मदद होगी। एंड मीडिया कैन इन्फ्लुएंस ऑल ऑफ दिस वेरी ग्रेटली। ऑब्वियसली उसका ये भी इम्पैक्ट होता है कि तारे जमी पर के बाद हर एक डिसलेक्सिक बच्चे के पेरेंट को पूछा कि अरे आपका तो बेटा आर्टिस्ट होगा बट डिसलेक्सिया क्या है इसके बारे में लोगों को समझ में, राइट? एक जजमेंट, अच्छा आमिर खान ने बोला है कि ये तो कुछ नहीं है, नॉर्मल बात। आई थिंक ये बहुत जरूरी है कि हम पॉजिटिव मीडिया, पॉजिटिव मतलब इंस्पिरेशनल नहीं, पॉजिटिव एक सकारात्मक मीडिया रिप्रेजेंटेशंस करें, इंक्लूसिव सोसाइटी ओवरऑल बनाने की कोशिश करें, ताकि ये उत्तरदायित्व, ये जिम्मेदारी सिर्फ पेरेंट्स, टीचर्स, केयर गिवर्स इन पर ना रहे, बल्कि एक सामाजिक जिम्मेदारी बन जाए कि विकलांग बच्चों को आगे अपनी शक्ति, अपनी क्षमता समझ में बेहतर आए और वो अपना एक उज्जवल भविष्य बना पाए। थैंक यू।
म्यूट। जोइता, you're on mute.
सॉरी अनम्यूट। या सो क्योंकि टाइम कम है, हम क्वेश्चंस नहीं ले पाएंगे, बट वी वुड लाइक टू डेफिनेटली कंक्लूड दिस स्पेस सेइंग कि seeing strengths changes how we view people, creating possibilities changes life. And thank you so much to all the panelists for sharing their wisdom and lived experiences, and to everyone for being part of this conversation. आशा है कि जब हम आज यहाँ से जा रहे हैं, we remain committed to building a world where every person's strengths, every individual's strengths are recognized, and every individual has the opportunity to contribute, belong, and thrive in their own way. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye. Thank you so much.
थैंक यू।
Thank you, Joeta, and our panelists for an enriching and thought-provoking conversation. We are grateful for your wisdom and the perspectives you have shared with us today. As we come towards the end of day one, thank you all for your participation, your reflection, and engagement throughout the day. We hope today's conversations have sparked new ideas, questions, and possibilities that you will continue to reflect on. We look forward to welcoming you back tomorrow for day 2 of the School Inclusion Summit 2026. A gentle reminder to join us by 9:45 a.m. for our first panel discussion so that we can begin on time. The feedback form will be shared in the chat here as well as on your WhatsApp group. Thank you once again for being with us today. Have a wonderful day and we'll see you tomorrow.